Hey guys, welcome back to the Blade Bloodhound. Tonight we're going to talk about a knife that actually I made, or somebody helped me make it, but I made it, or I'm claiming I made it. Anyway, it's one I made in a Pigeon Forge at Iron Mountain Metalcraft, and it was a cool place, and I'll talk about it while I'm showing you the knife. But anyway guys, let's get to it. All right guys, we're back. We're going to talk about a knife that I ended up making. When I say I made it, I went to a place in Pigeon Forge. And it was called Iron Mountain Metalcraft. Anyway, the guy that ran it, he was actually on Forged, I guess it's called Forged by Fire or Forged in Fire. It's a show that you've probably seen on TV. I've never really watched the show, but he was a contestant there. He actually did real well, they said, but he didn't win. But he kind of told me that he's kind of glad he didn't, and I'll tell you that little story in a little bit too. But anyway, so I was in Pigeon Forge goofing off, saw a sign. I went to eat somewhere, and I saw a sign saying that you could make knives at this place. So I said, well, I've always wanted to make a knife. I love knives. So let's do it. So I called them, and luckily they fit me in. It was a big waiting list usually, but luckily they had a cancellation. They said I could go. So I showed up to make it. So anyway, let's take a look at it. So as you can tell, or I don't know if you can tell or not, this is a railroad spike. You know, a lot of times you'll see the old spikes. They don't look like this. They're more of a big nail. It goes in the railroad tie. Holds the, guess it holds the rail to the track. They hammer it in between it and the wood. But so I go to this place and they say, hey, you can leave here today with a knife made from a railroad spike. So I was intrigued, went in, asked the guy about it. He said, I tell you what, he said, I can sell you one for $65 or you can make your own for $75. I said, well, that's the point of me being here, is to make it. So that's what I did. So I got there, and it's a railroad spike. Of course, they put it in the fire for you, and they heat it up, they pull it out, and they bring it over to an anvil, and they give you a hammer. Of course, I had on shorts, t-shirt, I even had on Crocs, and the guy was like, well, you're the first guy that's ever made a knife in Crocs here. But he gave me a leather apron to put on. And then they throwed something over my shoes so that when metal was flying, it wasn't gonna burn a hole in them. But what they did was they pulled it out and they had it sitting out, and you would get a hammer and he would scream, well, not scream, but he would say, you know, hit, 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 hit. You know, he was just constantly, I was swinging the hammer like a madman. And you know, I'm swinging, 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 and then they'd say stop, and then they'd pull it out and they'd put it back in the fire. They'd get it good and hot, they'd bring it back out, same thing, hit, 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 hit. Well, once I finished, I said, well, what are these little indentions here, or imperfections? And he goes, oh, that's where you hit too hard. Well, heck, he was screaming hit the whole time, so that's what I was doing. But hey, I don't care, it gives it character. It's a cool knife. So this was a big old nail. So the first thing we did was the blade. We shaped the blade. I hammered, hammered, hammered. You go up and down it, up and down it. You get it to about the level you want it. Then we started shaping on it. So what we did was we got the blade made. Then we heated it up, and this was a solid piece here, but we put it in a vise, and you can twist it. So they have a, I'm trying to think how to describe it. It was a apparatus that you set the knife in. It's kind of sitting straight. You put something over here and you just turn it, because the metal is so hot that you just twist that metal. So it puts these little twists in it, kind of gives it a unique look. And then you can put another device they have on there, and it pulls down and gives it kind of a, you know, it kind of goes down a little bit. So anyway, I hammered this one out myself. I can actually say that by the time I left, I was sweating like a madman. But we hammered it out, and then they take it over to the grinder and put an edge on it. I don't know if you can tell, but it is sharp as a razor. Very, very sharp. then you just kind of grind this a little bit just to give it some color. That way it's not totally black, because it's as black as this when you're first doing it. And then you grind the bottom here to make it look good. But it is a heavy knife, very solid in your hand. We'll see, I think I'm zoomed out about as far as I can go. Let's see if I can do it this way. But very, very heavy knife. But it was cool to make. So if you're ever in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, it's called Iron Mountain Metalcraft, I believe is the name of it. The guy that runs it was on that Forged by Fire. And he's the one that would always, I guess, kind of do a Ric Flair yelp. And so a lot of people know him by that. So he does that a lot while you're there making your knife. You'll hear him yelling in the background. I've actually got some video of me doing it, but since I don't really do a lot of editing and I just show you knives on this video, that's kind of what you're gonna get. Maybe one day I'll get smart and do all that other stuff. But when you finish, let's set the knife here. When you finish, of course, there's a leather shop right beside it. How convenient. And they will, they've got sheaths made already. Actually, I didn't say this, but you can do a railroad spike knife, you can do a horseshoe knife, you can do, they have some nail knives they do for like young children, you know, that can't really hammer on it for hours. That way they can leave with a completed knife as well. But the leather shop right beside it has these sheaths, and they're actually real reasonable. And went ahead and stamped it right here. So I did this one in 2017. Then I put my initials on it, which my wife would have said you should leave that off because she thinks belts and things with people's initials and things look kind of silly, but hey, it was my little knife, so I was gonna mess with it. But it's a pretty cool knife, so I recommend it. If you're ever around somewhere and they say you can make a knife from a railroad spike, wear blue jeans, wear normal shoes. Don't do like me, show up like you're going to the beach, and they'll let you do it. It's a lot harder than you think. I was thinking, oh, we're gonna hammer this metal and it's gonna just flatten right out. But I mean, I wailed and wailed and wailed. I mean, they've got anvils everywhere, and you hear people constantly. They probably have maybe 5 people at a time making knives, and he'll say, hit, 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 hit. He's screaming, and not screaming at you in a bad way, but just, you know, telling you to hit and when to stop. And, you know, you're moving it up and down the blade, getting the right thickness and shape. And then they do all the sharpening now. They're not gonna let you do any sharpening. So if you think you're gonna get on there and get on the grinding wheel and put your own edge on it, you're wrong. And I'm sure that's due to liability. And they actually bring the spike out hot. They put it in the fire for you. They're not letting you go over there and sticking your arm in the furnace either. But it was cool. I mean, so in a way you're making it with somebody, but at the end you have a good story, and I hope you like it. Anyway, like, subscribe, let me know what you think.